Indiana Sports Beat Radio is brought to you by the fine folks at the Hard Truth Distilling Company, including Big Woods Restaurants and Quaffon Beers. You can find their great products in your area. If not, ask for Hard Truth. Their great products like their Hard Road Rye, Sweet Mash Bourbon, or the Toasted Coconut Rum. Ask for the Hard Truth.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught! Jelani Woods! Touchdown! INDY! A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton!
How do you like that, partner?
Renew now, drives in low, throws up a shot. It doesn't go. Tipped up and in by Anthony Leal! Indiana takes the lead!
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Good day, everybody, and welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat Radio, back on this Monday after another spectacular sports weekend, joined by Greg Rakestraw from the ISB Sports Network. Greg, a terrific and fun sports weekend, all kinds of things going on. College football, we're deep into the heart of that. High school football, we're towards the latter stages of that. The Colts, gosh darn it, man, Joe Flacco has done an unbelievable job. The Colts come up short yesterday in Jacksonville. And Greg, this is another one of those daggone weird streaks the Colts have, and they've got a couple of them. But, man, they cannot vanquish this thing.
No, and let's face it, this is a situation where there is so much roster turnover in the National Football League. It's not like that a lot of these guys have been a part of multiples of these. The guy that is the longest in the tooth for the Indianapolis Colts in terms of tenure with the club is Ryan Kelly, and frankly, he didn't play yesterday. Tanner Bortolini, played in his stead or played in his place. But Ryan has one of the guys that has never experienced a win in Jacksonville, because you got to go back to 2014, the last time that the Indianapolis Colts won in Jacksonville. It wasn't like they were hapless. They had really been in 3 of their 4 games. They led the Dolphins, who still had Tua at that time, by 10 in the fourth quarter in Miami. They led for most of the game against Houston the week before. Obviously, Buffalo thumped them, the week before that, but they had struggled offensively. And nobody seemingly struggles against the Colts defense these days, as Jacksonville puts up 37 points. Trevor Lawrence by far has his best game of the season. And it was the first win for the Jaguars with Trevor Lawrence starting since the end of last November. And that is a remarkable stat on a couple of different levels.
Yeah, unbelievable. But Joe Flacco and the Indy offense, no Jonathan Taylor, no Anthony Richardson. You've got Joe Flacco, the 39-year-old golden arm stepping out. I should say golden legs. He used his legs quite a bit yesterday. I mean, for the old Pops was getting out, ran for a first down late. He looked solid. And, well, he was solid. He kept bringing the Colts back. They were down 2 scores late. They were always down and running. They were trying to move uphill. And then finally, man, they did what they probably should have done for the 3 quarters prior to that, Greg, and that was go deep, because, man, they torched the Jaguars secondary.
That they did. And, again, I think the Colts were of the philosophy of kind of take what the defense gives you. In terms of, for most of that game, again, trying to keep the game plan, I wouldn't say simple, but trying to keep a guy that isn't as mobile as your other quarterback, keep him upright. And sacks weren't a constant problem, but certainly you had the one at the end of the game. You had the one that caused the fumble that gave Jacksonville 3 points at the end of the first half that loomed large, whether that game played out. And that was simply Braden Smith getting beat, which is something that rarely happens, but it happened on 2 or 3 key plays yesterday. Clearly, Joe Flacco was the highlight of that day for the Indianapolis Colts.
Without question. Hopefully they can get things together because they're going to have to. You cannot continue to, especially early in the season. You cannot pile up L's this early in the season.
Well, this is a team that has playoff, aspirations, but right now they're not at a level I think they are given the luxury of long-term planning. There's just too many questions about this football team, whether it be defensively, what has gone wrong since you bring back so many pieces of your defense, and that's a sign you think they're pretty good, and they haven't been. Now they are dealing with injuries, and that I think does affect the pass rush numbers you see from yesterday because, again, you did not have DeForest Buckner, Kenny Moore, Tyquan Lewis, Kwity Paye. Those are four of your top pass rushers, and none of them played in yesterday's game. You obviously have the questions about Anthony Richardson as to his health, as to his availability, as to his ability to be successful. All of those things are in question. And so while it's fair to talk about those things in terms of the Colts and their ability to be a playoff team, I think this Colts team is still trying to figure out exactly what in the heck it is right now. What I do think we've got a pretty good handle on, Jim, is what their schedule looks like. Well, I can't tell you what this Colts team is going to finish. I can kind of get an idea as to whom they are playing. The next 2 weeks, again, they have opportunities against teams that frankly aren't good. The Tennessee Titans and the Miami Dolphins without Tua. Tua will be on injured reserve at least through the Colts game. So the Colts know they will not see him. And then once you get past those 2 games, business picks up quickly. 4 of the next 5 after that point are the Houston Texans, the unbeaten Minnesota Vikings, the Josh Allen-led Buffalo Bills, and the Detroit Lions, last year's NFC Championship runner-up. Once you get past that point, there's really not anybody that good on the rest of the Colts schedule. Maybe the Denver Broncos, who are now 3-2, that's out there coming off a bye in the middle of December. So I can kind of forecast in terms of the quality of teams the Colts are playing, but in terms of what we're going to see from the Colts on an every given Sunday basis, Jim, I honestly have no idea what to expect from this football team right now.
Absolutely. And, as I look over the standings, one thing that stands out, that jumps out to me very, very quickly is the fact that we're only 5 weeks into the NFL season, and there are only 2 NFL teams that are undefeated at this early stage. So a lot of parity already. I look at each division, 3-2 at the top, 3-2 at the top, 4-1, 4-0, 4-1. There's a 5-0, 3-2, 3-2, 3-2. There's a lot of parity, and no one is quite pulled away at this moment. So this, like other sports, college football, the parity, I'm just absolutely loving. Off air, we talked about Vanderbilt, Alabama for a second. There is nothing more fun than parity in sports, although I know people love to see the big names at the top. I think that's starting to change because I'm loving this parity thing that we're seeing across sports, and where you just never know who it's going to be.
I love it when long-suffering fan bases have a chance to see their team be successful. So, for example,
do you know anybody close by?
Maybe. I love, like what Buffalo has become. Now, do I think Buffalo is a championship contender this year? Probably not. I think they're a pretty good team. I do. I love, what's going on in Detroit. The fact that the Lions are seemingly a competent football organization for the first time in north of 30 years, if not longer than that. But let's be honest, the way the NFL is structured, you don't have, longer suffering fan bases. You tend to have that in Major League Baseball. Like, I'd love to see the Padres beat the Dodgers. I'd love to see the Royals beat the Yankees. But you'd love to see the Cleveland Guardians, who haven't won a World Series since 1948. You love to see that. In the National Football League, It's a little bit different. I would refer to it as there's parity or there's mediocrity, and I think it's a lot of the latter. And on the flip side of only having a couple of teams being unbeaten, again, everybody's got to win. So there's nobody that's great. And I said this earlier about the Jaguars. They weren't a terrible team. They just happened to be 0-4. Nobody's off the back end either. I think that part is good. There doesn't appear to be anybody, that's god awful tanking this year. That's a good thing. Games are competitive every Sunday. But in terms of having any sort of real greatness, I think that number is 1, and it's the team that plays in Kansas City, Missouri.
Yeah, I agree with you. They're looking that again. So we shall see. I know you did some high school football over the weekend as well. Someone asking me, hey, Michael, how East Noble is doing this year in football. I'm not sure. But I know for the big boys, it's great. A game that we would have normally thought of 2 of the top ranked teams in the state. They've kind of fallen off a little bit, but man, they still put on a show for you. The game you had.
They did. That would be Ben Davis beating Carmel 58-30. Most points that Ben Davis has scored against their rivals. Those 2 teams have met every year since the early 80s. Most points put together in the course of the rivalry between the 2 teams. Frankly, it was not as lopsided as it seemed. It was a 10-point game. It was a 3-point game at one point going in the second half. It was a 10-point game going to the fourth quarter. But the storyline for Ben Davis was 2 or 3-fold. A, they had 3 special teams touchdowns, 2 kickoff return touchdowns, a blocked punt touchdown. B, their sophomore quarterback in Joe Goss. It was supposed to be Isaiah Rodgers, the senior, as their quarterback this year. He had been the backup to Thomas Gotkowski, who is now at Miami of Ohio. Isaiah was getting some Division I looks last year, but Isaiah's dealt with some injuries. So they bring in sophomore Joe Goss. He by far had his best game of the season. Ben Davis has been a turnover-prone team. They had 1, but were able to overcome it in their victory. But the other thing that I thought was huge for Ben Davis, Mark Zachary, who I'm not sure he'll win it on a losing team in terms of Mr. Football. But if you ask me who's the best player in the state of Indiana, my answer would be Mark Zachary. He didn't have to carry him. He was the guy that blocked the punt, but it wasn't like Mark had this massive or huge game by his standards. He still made plays. He was still a difference maker. He didn't have to carry Ben Davis, and they won that game. That gives them a chance. I think they'll win their last 2 going into the postseason. Now the question is, can they get past Brownsburg? Because they and Brownsburg have been in the same sectional, and it's strictly been the stopping point for Brownsburg. Has been an inability to get by Ben Davis. I'm not sure that's the case this year. But from a 6A standpoint, the big story locally is Lawrence North. Lawrence North is 7-0 for the first time in 35 years. They will have a share of the McChampionship this year for the first time. They are hosting Center Grove, which is now a non-conference game, on Friday night. Center Grove lost in a shootout to Cathedral, 49-45 on Friday evening. Center Grove is good, probably not great, but I think this is also a year where I'm not sure there is a great team in 6A football. There's a whole lot of good. So we'll learn a lot about each of those 2 teams coming up on Friday night, and I'm lucky, Jim, that's the game that I get to call for my NDTV 23 coming up on Friday night.
Make sure you're tuning in and keeping up with all the Rakestraw has the offer and the ISC Sports Network, as well as his duties with the Colts. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you. Look forward to doing it again next week.
We'll see you next week, buddy.
Yes, sir. Greg Rakestraw joining us here on The Hard Truth, Indiana, brought to you by Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Hard Truth Studios. And we've got lots more, as the voice of the Hoosiers will join us next. And yes, we will talk about Indiana's 6-0 start, currently ranked 18th in the top 20 poll on the football side of things. That and much more when we come back to the Hard Truth Studios here on this Monday.
Segment is brought to you by the Ugly Grouper.
In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMoreHonda.com and get more to your door. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at indyhomepros.com.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering, serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas. Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Ravesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off your first order. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Hard Truth Distilling Company and Andy Moore Honda Bloomington. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Studios on this Monday, joined now by the voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fischer, who you got to do a couple of things over the weekend up in Evanston. First of all, you got to call a game with probably the best view you've ever had in your for any sporting event. But you got to call a 6-0 start by this Indiana football team, and it's just been a special run. I don't care. There's been some people that have tried to discount it here, and I'm like, I don't care. Indiana has been through every scenario through 128 years or whatever it is of football. So to do what they're doing now, it is special, and there's no taking it away. I don't care if people want to talk about the schedule or this, that, the other thing. They've had opportunities in the past over the course of 125 years, Don, and hadn't done what they're doing right now.
Well, it's been special. There's no question about that. They're averaging almost 48 points a game. They're averaging over 500 yards a contest in all of their games that they've played so far this year. Yes, the schedule hasn't been the toughest, but they've been able to take advantage of it and to play some spectacular football. And what we saw on Saturday was another evidence of that. I thought their comeback in this ball game, and I say comeback, being they still haven't ever trailed in a game yet this year, but the way that they play that complementary game with the offense dealing with whatever the defense can't get done, or the defense dealing with whatever the offense can't get done, they are really a good football team. That's what you can say about this team right now. The rankings mean nothing at this juncture. They mean something to the fan base and for the bragging rights and all those kinds of things that you want to have on your side of the ledger. But other than that, they really don't mean much of anything. I will say this: at 6-0 on the season, you're absolutely right. We have seen unprecedented football at Indiana. We haven't seen this kind of a start to a season in my career at Indiana University. 1967 is the last time that they had won 6 in a row to start a season, and they won 8 that year. And Indiana has a chance to do that, to match that or even better it. So we'll see how it all plays out. The good news is this fan base ought to be as excited as they have ever been, because this football team is showing them some kind of football or the kind of offense that we haven't seen in a long, long time, and a defense that responds almost every time that they're needed.
Yeah, the defense, some will say, didn't play quite as well over the weekend, and maybe they didn't, but also you got to give credit to Jack Lausch and Northwestern,
right?
Because I promise you, they looked better than what I expected, what Vegas expected. They looked a lot better than their outing 2 weeks before that, and I think that may have been Jack Lausch's first start, maybe
No.
a couple of games. It wasn't. Okay.
No, he started the last 3.
Okay,
including this week.
So, but he did not start the season as their quarterback. So you're looking at a guy he's behind. He's just catching up. So they had I think they also, did they have a bye before the Indiana game?
They had a bye week leading up to the IU game. So they had a chance to work on the problems that they were dealing with from an offensive standpoint. They have not run the ball very effectively this year, but Lausch, with his legs in this ball game, made things happen. And Indiana had a tough time with dealing with him throughout the ball game until the fourth quarter when they started. I don't know if that's when they started the spy on him, but he did not get out and run like he did in the first 3 quarters in the fourth period of this contest. So Indiana obviously made some adjustment there. Here's the other thing that people have to recognize. If you have 2 weeks to get ready for somebody, all these coaches, they know what they're doing. I mean, everybody's got good coaches out there, and these guys are making adjustments like you have to, especially if you're a team that's struggling at this point. And they were obviously having some problems with their offense. They got that fixed to some degree in this ball game, no question about that. They were effective against Indiana's defense. Indiana was playing without one of its best players in this game, and I don't know when he went out or if he didn't start the ball game. I don't know that we saw Jalen Walker on the field. Jalen Walker at that linebacking post, and he's one of the critical guys, one of the key guys in this defensive side of the football. And we don't know if the injury is serious or if he was kept out because of sickness or whatever the reason was. He was not playing in this contest most of the game. So you're dealing with something that's a little bit different for your team in that regard. And then on top of that, when you've got 2 weeks to prepare, you can put together a plan that's effective against the team that you've just watched 5 games of film on to get ready for this contest. So you've got to give the other team some credit as well for what they're able to do.
Curtis Rourke has been just an absolute marvel. He has been the most consistent, just game in, game out. He has been Curtis Rourke. He's unflappable, as his coach has said many times, and he is. He just does. It's like he brings his lunch pail to work, and every time he goes about his own business. He was 25 of 33 for, I believe, a career high 380 yards and 3 touchdowns this past weekend. Another great outing. You know, you look through the stats, they all look tremendous. The one thing that if you wanted to pick on something, third down efficiency for the Hoosiers, not great in that game, 3 of 9. That's one place where they have been really good. But, you know, that's the only negative that you can really find.
Well, and on top of that, Curtis Rourke, probably his greatest attribute is his ability to see the field and to read the defense. Those 2 things right there tell you why he is as successful at this juncture of the season that he has been. He is so smart He's been through the wars as a quarterback at Ohio University leading up to his career here, or his short career here at Indiana. And this guy was the MAC Player of the Year 2 years ago in 2022, which tells you that he's always been able to do the kinds of things that he's doing now. So it's no surprise that he is as successful as he has been up to this point. I give the offensive line a heck of a lot of credit for giving him those opportunities. And there were some times on Saturday when he was under pressure that he couldn't make some plays that he normally might make just because he was being harassed out there a little bit. But again, this is a football team that's so complementary to one another. But the offense and the defense, these guys pick each other up. And in this ball game, like the Maryland ball game, it was Indiana would score, Northwestern come back and get it close again. And this happened throughout this contest, just like it did in Maryland, until they get to the fourth quarter. And then this team finds a way to get stops, and they find a way to put points on the scoreboard. And that's all you're asking your football team on a game-in, game-out basis.
Yeah, and Don, yeah, and not only that, a lot of teams will usually be stronger in the first half. We have seen consistently Indiana's defense tighten up after the second half, making great adjustments. And this offense, they score 17 points in the fourth quarter alone, 24 second half points versus 14 for Northwestern. Stronger in the second half than the first half. That is the sign of a good team there, because a lot of teams will either ease up or not be as successful and allow other teams to make the adjustments. It seems like Indiana makes the right adjustments each week.
Well, and that's a credit to the coaching staff. These guys have been with Kurt Cignetti. Most of these guys have been with him for several years now. The offensive and defensive coordinators, I think, are tremendous on this football team. And Kurt Cignetti, of course, is an offensive guy himself and admits that he pays more attention to the offensive side than he does the defensive side. And believe me, and when you watch them play, you can see how the coaching affects this ball club and the players and how they go about their business. And the organization that I've seen from Kurt Cignetti throughout his coaching here at Indiana University, the organization of it, number one, the system that they put in there, the kinds of things he does from a disciplinary standpoint, how he gives his kids the understanding of how they should go about their business. Forget about that play that just happened because it's over. Start focusing on the next play immediately after that play is done. You don't even look back. You just go forward once again and focus on what you're supposed to. And the way he gets his players to do that, I think, is one of the greatest coaching traits that you could possibly have. You get your guys to buy in immediately, and he has pretty much done that with his football team. And think about the number of the makeup of this ball club and how new it is and how these guys look like they've been playing together forever. It's just amazing to me.
And something, the next thing I'm going to say, I've never had the benefit of being able to say, but we're 2 weeks out, just under that, for Indiana's next ball game, of course, with Nebraska, as the Cornhuskers will come to Bloomington after the bye week. But you better have your tickets now, because I'm telling you, that is going to be a sellout. It's going to start. A while back, I said that I think that Indiana's last 4 home games will be sold out, and it starts with Nebraska. It's a big game. Nebraska is going to travel decently well, and Indiana fans are already picking up the pace and filling that stadium. So it's going to be a raucous time. Of course, we've got another week before we get into that game week, but you better get your tickets now. And Don, I think you've seen that rise as well.
Well, I have. I thought the last ball game against Maryland, which was the home game, I thought that was the best crowd we've had in a long time. It was certainly the loudest, and a crowd that stuck around. Like Coach Cignetti had social media posted that you need to be here for 3 hours on Saturday. You can do whatever you want, party, go to class, whatever you want to do after that 3-hour period. But make sure you stay in the stands. And I hope that message continues, because there's little question in my mind that the most important factor for this ball club right now is the support of the fan base. This team has proven of what they're capable of doing. And if you can't support that, then you're not going to be able to host a football program here at Indiana University that people can be proud of, because it boils down to, it's not just the team itself and the success that they're having, but if you don't support that success, it's not going to continue. It's just that simple.
That's exactly right. And that's what keeps coaches in place. That's what there's been a lot of talk about, everybody's going to come after Cignetti. Well, yes, they are going to come after him. Why would they not? But as long as he is happy where he is, because he has great support, great fan base, and success and the ability to win, which he has the latter, he has the ability to win. He's winning. He doesn't have to go. I've said the one thing I've said about whether it's Florida or anyone else, I think that he loves the challenge of being the Indiana coach, because nobody has ever done what he is doing the way he is doing it ever at Indiana. It's been done at Florida. It's been done at Auburn. It's been done there. It's not a challenge to win at those places. I wouldn't think for Curt Cignetti. If you can win at an Indiana, the legitimately most downtrodden Division I program ever, I think you're doing pretty damn well.
Yeah. Well, that's well said. No, there's no question. I think the support aspect of it now is the big question mark with our football program, with Indiana's football program. I just think that's the key to this thing getting better and better as we go forward, because this is only half a season we've played under this regime. But you've already seen the production that these guys have had. Granted, the schedule hasn't been the toughest, but at the same time, you can see that this team is going to be capable of dealing with some of these other ball clubs they're going to be playing with. In years past, you couldn't say that. I mean, it's just the facts. So I look at it from this perspective alone. Indiana right now is on a high, and it will stay that way, I think, for some time, because I think this program is building. And it's going to have to be rebuilt next year when a lot of these guys will be gone. So, and we have the coaching staff and the head coach who can get this thing turned quickly again next year. But right now, you got to make hay when you can. And right now, I think this program is doing exactly that. And I got to go. I got another appointment.
Well, we got to let Don go. Don, we appreciate you, my friend. Enjoy the rest of your week. No presser today. We'll see you next week.
I appreciate it.
And no show this week either, right?
No show this week for Hoosier Hanks, but we will be back next Monday with you, and we'll talk a little basketball.
Absolutely. Don Fischer joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Glad to have him. As always, we've got lots more coming up, and we'll be back with that and much more as we'll see. Dustin Dopirak is going to be joining us in the next segment and the second hour for those that are staying along. But always glad to have Fish joining us here. And plenty to talk about is the basketball season right around the corner as well. Hoosier Hysteria coming up. Let's see, what is today? The 7th. So less than 2 weeks. It's a week from this Friday. Actually, the night before the Nebraska game. How big is that going to be? That weekend alone for the Hoosier fans. Whoo! I mean, I'm just saying it's going to be craziness. Looking forward to it all. Hope you guys are ready for it all. We've got plenty to get to here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back with it and more right after this. Indiana Sports Beat Radio is brought to you by the fine folks at the Hard Truth Distilling Company, including Big Woods Restaurants and Quaffon Beers. You can find their great products in your area. If not, ask for Hard Truth. They're great products like their Hard Road Rye, Sweet Mash Bourbon, or the Toasted Coconut Rum. Ask for the Hard Truth. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Hard Truth Distilling Company and Andy Moore Honda Bloomington. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Studios on this Monday, and I appreciate you as always, of course, joining us. Lots to get to as the Indiana Hoosiers, the top 25 comes out. A big shakeup, of course, after one of the biggest upsets in college football in a long, long time. You know what I'm talking about. Our friend Kalen DeBoer and his Alabama Crimson Tide, they go to Vanderbilt and get knocked off unbelievably in Nashville. And if you didn't watch the videos, you should. It's just a cool scene. It seems like something from the 50s or 60s. It took them a while. I didn't think they were going to get the goalpost down. They only had 2 or 3 guys jumping up there, but they get the goalpost down at Vanderbilt. Out of the stadium, it goes 3 miles down Broadway in Nashville. And if you're familiar at all with Nashville, Broadway is where all the honky-tonks are. And then there's another video. It shows the goalpost coming down from through the menagerie. The streets were shut down already. Police cars out there, and you could see this wave of people and just meandering in and around as they were holding the goalpost above the all these cars. And got around them. So it was kind of wild to see. And then into the river it goes. So pretty cool. Awesome to see that. Fun time. Texas back to number 1 in the AP poll. Ohio State, which is going to play a gigantic role in the Big Ten playoffs. We'll talk about that in a second. Oregon up to number 3. Penn State up to number 4 as the Big Ten now with 3 out of the top 4 teams of this AP poll, followed by Miami at 6-0. The only other team in the country bowl eligible right now, besides your Indiana Hoosiers, Alabama, only dropped to number 7. I don't get that. You cannot be the number 1 team in the country and lose to Vanderbilt and still be the 6th, 7th best team in the country, in my opinion. Today I will have my Big Ten Power Index out. We missed it last week, but that's fine. We'll get it caught up. But in my Power Index, if you lose, you drop appropriately. You don't move a couple of spots. You move down to where there are teams that I think are better than you. And I don't know. Oregon is number 3 in the country. I'm just not positive that they are. Are they the 3rd best team in the Big Ten? I'm not saying they're not, but I don't know that they are. Drop down through the rest of the Big Ten, 7, Alabama, Tennessee, 8. After another, they got beat. But they only dropped 4 spots as well. Ole Miss, after getting knocked off by unranked Kentucky, still a top 10 team at 5-1. Clemson is number 10. Iowa State, one of the only undefeated teams at 5-0. They're only, Texas, Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, all undefeated right now, unblemished. Miami at 6-0, as I said. Iowa State at 5-0. BYU 5-0. Your Indiana Hoosiers at 6-0. Pittsburgh at 5-0 as well. Now, Michigan is still ranked at number 24 with 2 losses. Joke. It's a joke. It's a joke. But Indiana fans would prefer that they are ranked. You would rather if they are ranked when the Hoosiers play them, just like Nebraska is a couple of spots. I think they're 27th. If they are able to get back into the rankings next week, it gives Indiana a victory if they were able to beat Nebraska at home, a win over a ranked team, which sounds and looks better optics-wise. Indiana moves up just a couple of spots into a 3-way tie for 18, as there were 9 teams that were in front of them that moved up. So it was that kept Indiana from moving a lot. Texas A&M moved up 10 spots because they beat Missouri. Let's see, was Missouri still? Yeah, Missouri, they dropped to 21. They were a top 10 team. So, but we'll see how it goes. The Big Ten now dominates the top 5. It's funny how this goes. Just a week or 2 ago, it was the SEC had 6 of the top 7 spots, but they're still up there no matter what. But that's going to take care of itself, as will the Big Ten race. Who's going to make the Big Ten championship game? Well, Ohio State is going to have a huge say in that, because besides the Ohio State Buckeyes, there are certain teams that I think have a shot at that. Of course, Oregon, Penn State, and Indiana. Indiana, Oregon, and Penn State all play Ohio State. Kind of a funky deal, because Indiana does not play Oregon, and it does not play Penn State. Same for those two. So that game, if someone is able to beat Ohio State, that's a tiebreaker. That will be huge for someone, because that is going to be a measuring stick. And I think that the Big Ten gets 3 teams in for sure, without question. The problem for, say, Indiana is if someone is able to knock off Ohio State, well, Ohio State could possibly lose to Penn State, lose to Oregon, both. And if they do, well, that knocks Ohio State out of the equation, which would be nuts. And I still think there are going to be probably at least 3 Big Ten teams that are 11-1 or better. The schedule is going to certainly play this out, but Ohio State has, if they could get through their schedule, well, they're more than deserving like I said, they're going to end up playing Indiana, Oregon, Penn State, all ranked teams coming up. As a matter of fact, let me pulling up their schedule up next for the Buckeyes this Saturday is a date in Eugene, Oregon, to take on the Ducks. Then they play Nebraska. I believe they have a bye. Yeah. So then they have a bye week, and then they'll take on Nebraska, then Penn State, then they get Purdue, Northwestern, and Indiana, and Michigan. They have Michigan at home, which, as of right now, that looks like that should not pose much of a problem to the Buckeyes, but it is a rivalry game, and sometimes you throw that out to win it. Plus, Jack Tuttle, now the quarterback for the Wolverines, as they have had quarterback issues. They couldn't throw the ball. Now you've got Jack Tuttle in there. He came in, I believe, after he did. I don't think he started the game out at Washington, in which the Wolverines lost, but he came in, and that's who Indiana will likely face. The irony. Oh, the irony. But Ohio State is certainly going to be tested in their attempt to make the Big Ten championship game. And like I said, if they can get through that gauntlet, they deserve to make it. Oregon has an easy schedule. Manageable schedule. After Ohio State, they've got Purdue. They travel to Illinois, which that will be a tough game. They've got to go to Michigan, which maybe this changes Michigan's fortunes with Jack Tuttle at quarterback. They have Maryland to come visit. They've got to go to Wisconsin, which is not much. And then a little rivalry game with Washington coming to visit. I don't think that Washington has enough for Oregon, but we'll see. Illinois, I'm not going to discount Illinois. Illinois is a tough team. So they've got that going for them. And then Penn State, of course, their schedule. They have to travel to USC, who is smarting over that loss to Minnesota this weekend. Then they travel to Wisconsin, so they've got back-to-back road games. Then they play Ohio State. Then, and that is at home. So Penn State gets Ohio State at home. Huge game in the Big Ten. I mean, that's a decider. Then they will play Washington, travel to Purdue, travel to Minnesota, and close out with Maryland. So it's going to be a wild back half of the season. It's been fun for this front half for Indiana fans. You're 6-0, as I fully expected them to be. I fully expect them to go 7-0 when they take on Nebraska. Not that Nebraska is not a worthy opponent. They are. But now this Indiana team has 2 weeks to prepare to sharpen up an already incredibly sharp and efficient offense, one of the most efficient in the country. But they've got to clean up some defensive issues. The passing game, they didn't give up a ton, but you had a quarterback who's just getting better for Northwestern, but he had a decent day. Indiana's still able to hold them to just 14 total second half points. I think if Indiana can do that pretty much the entire way, they're going to win because Indiana's going to score. It's been hard for teams to stop this Indiana offense because you have a quarterback that is precise, that he is unflappable, and a lot of weapons. Lots of weapons on that Indiana offense. And it's going to be fun to watch, as this will be the biggest challenge yet. Now they get the week off, like you said, to rest up, first of all, heal up, get some of these nicks and bruises healed up, and then get back to it. Indiana will back-to-back home games. And I'm telling you, if you don't have your tickets, it's going to be good luck. Parking already sold out, I'm hearing. So it's going to be a big-time party. You get Nebraska, one of the top programs in the country, coming in. That is going to be a great – it's wild to see Indiana football being an environment, and it is just that. The fans that traveled up to Evanston stayed, and Kurt Signetti acknowledged them after the game. That was fun to see. And this team, 6-0 now, what they can be, what they will be, yeah, I could give my predictions all I want, but this all stays about, or it all revolves around staying healthy. And what this team has done a pretty daggone good job of so far. You have to, Bob Bostad has done an unbelievable job taking an offensive line that was Indiana's biggest liability and was thought to be potentially one of their biggest liabilities coming into this season. But they have done an unbelievable job protecting the quarterback, preventing the teams from getting to him for the most part, giving him the time to throw, to make these plays. So Bob Bostad, the offensive line coach for the Hoosiers, deserves a ton of credit. But all the coaches deserve credit. This offense is just fluid. And they don't score on their first two possessions against Northwestern, but then score on 7 straight. That's what is dangerous about this offense. They could be a quick strike offense, but if not, they are pretty precise and pretty good at keeping drives alive, keeping the ball in their possession, keeping the defense on the field, the opponent's defense. So we'll see. The top 25 right now, six teams from the Big Ten. The SEC still with 9. Couple, let's see, who fell out? I'm not sure, but USC, they're out. Lost its first 3 Big Ten games. Or 2. USC has lost 2 of its first 3 Big Ten games. They're out of the top 25. So that was a bit of a surprise to see. But, yeah, USC, UCLA, not having quite the season they would like. Washington getting a huge win over Michigan this past weekend for them. That was big in a number of ways. First of all, that's a rematch of last year's national championship game. Michael Penix was in attendance for that, by the way, as well. So here a quick Kurt Signetti. Let's hear a quick sound bite from what he had to say after the game.
I'm not going to say we needed a game like that, but we were certainly tested back and forth like we had not been tested this season. Most of our wins have been pretty decisive. The Maryland game, we kind of took control in the second half, and, they were able to close the gap a little bit. But this was back and forth. And was really proud of the offense, the whole team, first of all. But the offense kept responding with touchdowns when they needed to. Probably wasn't our best game defensively. Well, not even probably. It wasn't. It started with us letting the quarterback out of the pocket on 3rd down early in the game. But I really liked the way we finished the game defense the last 2 drives. I really liked that a lot. That was awesome. And our kicking game was solid, and made our field goals when we needed to. So to go on the road and get a Big Ten win, that's a great thing. Looking forward to the bye week, and everybody could use a day off. And I think for the players, it's a good time to kind of get rejuvenated a little bit. And, we'll use it constructively. We have an older team. I'm not really concerned about them so much reading about their accolades on social media and the paper, because they've been around the block a little bit. and they'll be reading a lot about how, we aren't good enough to do this and that. I want the chip on their shoulder to keep growing. Is what I want.
Keep that chip on the shoulder. We'll keep the chip on the shoulder as well. We've got lots more coming up. If you're sticking with us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, if you're not, we'll see you on the radio the next time, but we'll be back with more in our next hour right after this.
This segment is brought to you by Freethink Apparel.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Hard Truth Distilling Company and Andy Moore Honda Bloomington. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Monday from the Hard Truth Studios. Joined now by Dustin Dopirak, Indy Stars Pacers beat writer, and believe it or not, 1 day away from preseason play. Dustin Dopirak, I cannot believe there is going to be a basketball game tomorrow that the Pacers are playing in. Kind of crazy. I'm not sure if Dustin is there. He may be frozen. May have to get him kicked out and brought him back in. I think he's locked up on us, but he'll join us back here in a second. But yes, believe it or not, preseason play coming tomorrow. I cannot believe that in the NBA, but yeah, it's happening, and it happens tomorrow night at Gamebridge Fieldhouse, and looking forward to it. Dustin, how are you, sir? He's still having an issue getting in here with us, but we'll wait for him. He's always worth the wait. And I think you may have, not sure if you got your mic locked up or what, but I don't see you on camera either right now, Dustin, if you can hear me, sir. But they take on the Atlanta Hawks. The Pacers take on the Atlanta Hawks tomorrow as they restart their attempt to get back to the conference finals and then maybe move on. Not maybe, but the goal, of course, to move on to the NBA finals. As last season's effort, although great, died at the hands of the Boston Celtics in the NBA Eastern Conference Finals game. What can they do more? We've talked about what they need to do. Can they move forward with the same roster, which is basically what they have? We'll find out. And we'll talk about some more football and basketball with the Hoosiers after this with Dustin as well. But Dustin coming along, and hopefully we can get him this time around. Is the third time the charm. And not yet, but one of these days, we shall see. Dustin, just keep trying, my friend. I think you got some settings issues going on. But the Pacers back at it after a long off season. You know, it's been a long off season because we've tried to, or we've talked to Dustin for a while now where he has not had to do anything, which has been great. But now it's back to work as the Pacers go back at it. I think they have, 3 preseason games? They play the Hawks tomorrow night at 7:30. Then they will play the Cavaliers, followed by, when is this? This in-season tournament comes quickly as well. It starts on Friday, November 15th. So we're barely a month over the Pacers joining, or the Pacers getting in the NBA in-season tournament, a tournament in which the Pacers won last year. This year starts against the Miami Heat. Khalil Ware, former Hoosier. We'll see that collision. But I'm trying to figure out which one of these actually starts. I thought that, there we go, 4 preseason games. In addition to the Cavaliers, they'll be at home for their final 2 against the Grizzlies and the Hornets. Both of those on the 14th and then the 17th of October. And the regular season play opens up with the Pacers on the road up in Detroit, Rock City, on Wednesday, October 23rd. And then a couple days later, they'll travel to New York. The place so nice, they named it twice. Before coming home for their first home season, or the season opener at home. That will come on Sunday, October 27th, but just home for a game, kind of weird. As then they'll travel back out. And those first games, October 30th, the Celtics come to Indianapolis. So that's a game that is circled. But also the Knicks. The Knicks are a team that a lot of is expected of. So hopefully Dustin can join us, and we'll talk more about the Pacers and their upcoming season. And if not, we'll continue on. We've got plenty to get to. College basketball mentioned Hoosier Hysteria for Indiana coming up soon. All right. Dustin is trying once more. There we go. I can hear you this time, brother.
Okay, I'm in front of a camera, and I don't know why you can't see me.
That's okay. I know what you look like, and it's
Fair.
all good. But I was just talking about the Pacers. They've got 4 preseason games coming up. Of course, the first 2 are on the road, and they come back home for 2. And then you're only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games into the season before they'll face the Boston Celtics and get a taste of what they faced in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. So, and you got the Knicks early on as well. So they're going to be tested early.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think that's what happens when obviously you get back in the playoffs. They try to kind of front load some of these, TV watchable games. Obviously, they're fortunate to get started with Detroit. But yeah, I mean, obviously they want to get them on national TV early. They get the Knicks, in a rematch of what was a classic 7-game series, and New York looks great. Obviously, they went out and made some big moves. Mikal Bridges during the offseason, re-signed OG Anunoby, and then just the blockbuster right before the beginning of the season, going with getting Karl Anthony Towns for Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle. I mean, I was talking with some people this weekend wondering who won that trade, because they're giving up that's significant pieces they're giving up. Obviously, DiVincenzo had a lot to do with their success. So, and it's a big time shooter. I think was top 5 in the league in total 3-pointers made last year. So that's a not insignificant loss. And, don't know what Randall was going to be. It'll be interesting to see what he looks like for Minnesota, but they went out and got, the Towns, who I still think is one of the top 5 or 6, offensive centers, at least in the NBA. It's going to change the way they play. Certainly it's, I think, really the first time in the Tom Thibodeau era they've had a big time center. So we'll see what they look like, but that's going to be a tough one. I think they've got Orlando. The Pacers have Orlando shortly after that. They've got Philly in there. Basically a lot of the best teams in the East. They're going to play basically by through early November. So again, that's what happens. You get tested. It's different once you've made a playoff run and it's been established that people want to see you and want to get a sense of who you're going to be. You tend to get a lot of these tests early on in the season, so you take advantage of the TV windows. But yeah, it's Knicks, Sixers, Magic, Celtics, right out of the gate, and then they go on the road and they get Dallas on November 4th, get Orlando again. So basically, right, that before November 6th, I mean, they're playing, 5 or 6 games against playoff teams. So it's really going to test them.
Absolutely. And we'll get a sense of what these other teams are going to be like this year as well. But the expectations are already there, just like they are for the Pacers. Not a lot of change. The Celtics are still expected to be the team that is the one that you have to go through to get to the NBA Finals from the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, they obviously went out and re-signed everybody. I mean, that puts them well into that tax second apron. But Tatum and Brown obviously still really young guys that now have a championship under their belt. They've played a lot of big time basketball games together in their time already, and they finally kind of gotten over that hump, won a title. And so, like that starts them in Holiday and White and Porzingis. I mean, just what a starting 5 they have. And they obviously have really good pieces coming off the bench as well. But just, keeping all those guys, extending some of them, they got a whole lot of money invested in keeping those dudes. But I mean, you saw why. I mean, they obviously ran away with the Eastern Conference during the regular season, won 64 games. Nobody else won more than 50. And were pretty dominant, obviously, in the NBA playoffs all the way through. Just have the combination of just offensive talent on the wings and just really good defensive ability to rebound, ability to run, enough size. It's just it is a really excellent group. Now, obviously, you'll see what happens when you win a title. It's kind of been fascinating. Obviously, the NBA its history has been defined by teams that repeat. Win 2 or 3 in a row. Basically, it's been defined by its dynasties up until really the last decade. It's been a while since you've seen a team win 2 in a row. If I'm not mistaken, it's been since. I think it's been since Golden State won 2 in a row. I think that's the last time it's happened. It's you have seen it harder for teams to establish dynasties to win consecutive championships. There's a lot more parity in the league now. I think obviously thanks to a lot of the changes they've made in the cap. But Boston certainly has a chance to repeat. They're not guaranteed it by any means. Again, obviously, like you mentioned, the Knicks, bolstered their roster. The 76ers went out and got Paul George, added some other pieces. The Pacers are back. Milwaukee still has Giannis and Dame. We'll see what those guys become. So they're going to get challenged in the East, and then they're going to get challenged if they win the East. And there's a lot of really good teams in the West. So we'll see what happens there. But they definitely are. They definitely have a team that has the potential to win a second one.
What are the Pacers going to have to do? They've got to get back through Milwaukee again, which they had great success doing last year. Of course, I noticed this in-season tournament, man, it's early. It's a big time test early, as that will come just a month into the season.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same as it was last year. Remember, it just gets woven through the regular, like the regular year when you start in middle of November when they start picking these things up. But yeah, I mean, they'll have had a bunch of games already when they start getting into that, and we'll see if they can get back in, to that scenario into Vegas. If they don't, it's not a huge deal. It's not. I mean, I think the in-season tournament was more necessary for them last year. It was kind of early a springboard. If they don't take the same springboard, they could be okay. They don't have to get back to Vegas for it to be considered a successful early start to the season. But it would be a nice boost if they could get a win against Miami, basically in the middle of November. If they could go to Milwaukee and beat them on November 22nd, that would obviously shape them, put them in really good shape. And then they'd have Detroit after that. And that's a game obviously they can win in Toronto. Those two games are games they can win. But if they start 2-0, they're probably going to win the group. That would kind of help them get kickstarted a little bit if they could get rolling. But no, I mean, the important thing they have to do, they have to defend better. They have to be just prepared for the fact that no one's going to be surprised by them. I think that is really the important thing. Again, you have this early start to the schedule that's set, and everybody that sees them is going to be like, all right, this is a team we've got to establish themselves against. These were an Eastern Conference finalists last year. It's not going to be a team that anybody takes easy, and that's important in the NBA because you play 82, and it's hard to gear up for 82. And the Pacers found that out themselves. I mean, they lost some games mostly because they, basically just didn't take teams seriously enough. I mean, they lost to Washington, they lost to San Antonio, they lost to Portland twice, they lost to Charlotte twice. It's very easy to come out for a game and based on who you already played or based on your injury situation or based on how many you've played in how many days or back-to-backs or being on the road. You can come up against somebody and be like, oh, we're going to beat these guys. We're fine, and you're not, because they're NBA teams. I mean, they still have NBA players, guys that were All-Americans, guys that were top draft picks. They can always beat you, and you're bound to have some slip-ups like that. And you can benefit from that if you're a bad team. But the Pacers are not going to benefit from a team that's not brand name anymore. I mean, they're a team that's won a bunch of games, and they're a team that has chirped along the way. And so this is a team that people are going to want to beat. And so they're going to get used to that. But they have to become a better defensive team. And I think they will. It's just a question of how much better. I don't think this is going to be a great defensive team by any means. They've been looking at it and saying, okay, if you're the best offense in the league, you don't have to be a top 10 defense to be successful. I mean, you kind of just want to avoid the bottom 10. They don't even have to be halfway there. They don't have to be the 15th defense in the league. If they're 20th, 21st, that goes a long way for them. That gives them a puncher's chance every night. And so I think they've got a chance to be there. Somewhere in that vicinity just because they've got some continuity on defense. I think they've established personnel-wise who they ought to have out there. I think it was, smart for them to commit to having Andrew Nembhard and Aaron Nesmith in the starting lineup last year. And I think that's what the starting lineup is going to be. I mean, I think people are obviously looking at it and saying, well, Ben Mathurin's a lottery pick and he was all rookie guy and he's probably, one of your best scorers. Why not give him another shot of being a starter? And I mean, he's going to get a chance at it, but I mean, I think he doesn't just have to be a better defensive player. I think he has to be a better defensive player than Aaron Nesmith. And I think that's a really, tough mountain for him to climb. I don't know if he gets to that point. Certainly by the beginning of the season. I don't know if it happens at any point this year because Nesmith has been a guy that's been taking, tough assignments for the last couple of years. He's guarded the best players in the world. And when you're used to that, you build on that experience. And, Mathurin hasn't had the same experience. And it's going to become kind of self-fulfilling. Nesmith is going to keep getting those assignments. Mathurin's not. So it's going to be really difficult for him to prove that he deserves them and that Aaron Nesmith doesn't, is kind of the bigger point. You have to prove both sides of that equation to take that starting lineup spot away from him. But I think, having that group established as your first line defense, is going to help. They've got a better sense of what their schematics are, basically. I mean, they obviously play straight man-to-man, but it's, they're really intentional about when they help off and when they don't help off, especially in ball screen defense. Basically they don't want to give up threes. They were actually, the best team in the league last year. And they allowed the fewest 3-pointers, the fewest 3-point attempts because they didn't leave guys, basically. I mean, they were kind of willing to give up some drive, buckets that way rather than leave, to help and give up a wide open three against, to one of the better guys. They're smart about who they help off, when they help off, and they have to kind of maintain that, but they do have to cut down on paint points. They gave up the most paint points in the league last year, so they got to get better there. But if they do, I mean, I think they're going to belong. I think as they're going to be a playoff team. I think they're going to belong as an Eastern Conference contender. But last year the 2nd seed and the 8th seed were separated by 4 games. I think the Knicks got the 2 winning 50 games. The Heat were the 8 with 46, and you had everybody else in between there. So it's not a lot of separation. It's a couple games can decide whether you're the 3 or the 4 or the 5 or the 6 if it goes that way. And again, I think it will. I think all those teams are close to the same caliber between the Knicks, Philly, Milwaukee, Orlando, who re-upped, is another young team, much like the Pacers, that's more defense oriented than the Pacers are. The Cavs obviously got a coaching change, but they've still got great players, Donovan Mitchell, et cetera. They're going to be right in there. And Miami, I still don't think you could sleep on them. I think they're clearly the 8th team out of that group, but Jimmy Butler can still get you. Bam Adebayo is still one of the best defensive players in the NBA. So, I think it's going to be a very, very small separation between all those teams. I think the Pacers will belong in there, but they've got to fight for every single game because it could just be a couple games to determine whether you're starting off with home court in the playoffs or whether you're not.
Absolutely. Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star with us. We've got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company as we're coming to you from the Hard Truth Studios. We'll be back with that and much more all right after this.
Segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg.
Indiana Sports Beat Radio is brought to you by the fine folks at the Hard Truth Distilling Company, including Big Woods Restaurants and Quaffon Beers. You can find their great products in your area. If not, ask for Hard Truth. Their great products like their Hard Road Rye, Sweet Mash Bourbon, or the Toasted Coconut Rum. Ask for the Hard Truth. In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. The Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Marie Island, Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf Community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by the Fresh Fork in Bloomington.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Hard Truth Distilling Company and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this great Monday. Dustin Dopirak from Indy Star with us. He's talking about the Pacers as their season is about to start. Preseason game number 1 tomorrow night as they'll travel down to Atlanta to take on the Hawks, to open up their season. But Dustin, did you get a chance to do anything over the weekend, to watch any other sports, any football, anything?
Yeah, I caught a little bit of the IU game. We had some people over on Saturday, so I was kind of like in and out on that. But pieced a little bit together a little bit this morning. Watched the Steelers get their hearts broke last night.
Golly, what an absolute old time Cowboys Steelers matchup, man.
It was brutal because the Steelers have no offense, more or less. I mean, they're better off probably with Justin Fields than they would be if they hadn't shaken up their quarterback circumstance significantly. But they can really, really play defense, but they just let one get away from them, last night. Just had one play to either win it or lose it, and kind of lost that what's his name in coverage. So that wasn't the greatest. So yeah, I mean, they're a just okay football team, obviously, and they just have not solved the quarterback situation since Roethlisberger left or retired. So they're struggling. So I watched that game, watched a little bit of Colts yesterday, watched a lot of baseball, watched a whole lot of baseball. The Dodgers are in trouble. I think Dodgers are in a whole lot of trouble after last night. They jumped him. And they're, the last time they had a playoff series together, the Dodgers had a real hard time winning at Petco Park. I think that could still be the case. The Padres got a lot of momentum coming up after that game. Caught a little bit of Yankees Royals, watched the end of Phillies Mets yesterday. It's impressive run by the Phillies to make sure they got one at home. And yeah, so I'm trying to think of what else I had. Who else did I have on? Watched the end of Cal Miami. Stayed up for that. That was pretty nuts. Also, for Miami to come back from that one. So yeah, I did not watch Vanderbilt Alabama at all. Just where again just got the notification on my phone. And I was like, well, that can't be a real thing.
Exactly.
Like that can't really, this can't be the sport. This must not be a football,
unbelievable.
Shocker. Yeah, I mean,
that's I'm trying to think back. When was a bigger shocker in my mind? I'm not to say ever, but in recent memory, a number one team losing to a very, very down. That would have been like Indiana beating a number one team last year or the year before.
Yeah.
Just unbelievably shocked. I mean, people are shocked over Indiana's start. No, that's not as big as the shocker that Vanderbilt just displayed.
No, I mean, especially after Alabama just beat Georgia. I think that's the thing is like you weren't looking at a team that was at an Alabama team. It's like, oh, well, they're, this is just a down year for Alabama. It's post Saban leaving. This is a program that's obviously weak. Like they just beat Georgia last week to go to number one. Again, like obviously they were clearly coming off a hangover. They clearly came into Vanderbilt and thought they were going to win. Early, I presume they did. I didn't watch a single minute of the game. I just presume that had to be the case. But I mean, they just beat Georgia, so you can't look at it and say, well, this team isn't strong, this team isn't talented, or this team is clearly in decline. After it just lost one of the greatest coaches in the history of the game. So I mean, I'm shocked, and it's again like as bad as like Indiana and Northwestern's histories are in the Big Ten, like Vanderbilt's in the SEC is worse in football. I mean, I would say they are even more. I mean, I know Indiana's lost more games, but like Vanderbilt has traditionally been more hopeless against, those caliber of teams. I think
there have just been more teams in the SEC that are higher level than have been in the Big Ten at the same time.
I think. Exactly. Like Vanderbilt jumping all those guys to get a win is just so out of pocket. It's just wild to consider. I mean, they must not be bad. I mean, you obviously got to be at least a halfway decent football team to put that together. I mean, I hadn't been paying super close attention to them. But just it is stunning. And it's definitely one of those that like no celebration was too much. They lost to Georgia State. And I'm just seeing this. I'm like looking like they lost to Georgia State earlier this year. So to lose to Georgia State and beat Alabama doesn't make any sense. They gave Missouri a game. They beat Virginia Tech, so they're not nothing. But they lost to Georgia State. Like that's so incredibly senseless. But college football is wild, man. It's crazy, and apparently it's gonna be one of those years. Tennessee got beat too by Arkansas. Significant shakeup on a Saturday when we weren't necessarily expecting it. I mean, it wasn't a low.
It was upset Saturday, baby. Upset Saturday.
Yeah.
And games that you just didn't see coming. And I look at the Southeastern Conference standings right now. Auburn 0-3, Mississippi State 0-2, Kentucky, who dang near beat Georgia and did go to Ole Miss and beat Ole Miss, 1-2 in the conference. South Carolina, who beat Kentucky resoundingly at Kentucky, 1-2 in the conference. All those teams are below Vanderbilt in conference play, as Vanderbilt is 1-1 now. So they've got that going for them, and maybe they pull a George Costanza and just walk off. That's it. That's it.
Don't play any more football. At the end of this, Vanderbilt should just close its football program and just ride on that for this until the end of time. They really should do this. Like, no joke. They should bronze that field goal post on Broadway. No joke. I mean,
it would be incredible.
I saw that idea. I would sign up for that. Put that thing up on Broadway in Nashville. Leave it there forever. Absolutely. I mean,
it's a cool thing that happened in a cool town at the right time. I mean, I've watched that video where they're carrying the goalpost down Broadway. You see this, it was like a tsunami of people. They're carrying the goalpost up and over these cars, police cars. And, speaking of Seinfeld, I used a reference earlier. It was like the episode with the Frogger, where they had to take it out into the street, move it back, move it over, move it up. They had to go around all these impediments. And I'm like, they did it. They didn't slow down, man. They just got there.
Yeah. You have to wonder, like, how many bachelorette parties were out there wondering what is going on? Like, on a October Saturday in Nashville, it had to be just loaded. And then there's, like, all these kids from Vanderbilt come down the street with a goalpost. Like, what is going on? I mean, just wild. Just absolutely crazy. I mean, like, good for those kids, man. They do not expect that. You don't expect that when you go to Vanderbilt. For sure. So just
now, Indiana, I don't know that they'll have an opportunity for that this season, because the game that you would have thought would have been that opportunity would have been Michigan. Not that they haven't beaten them before. They have beaten them within the last 10 years, which that alone is unbelievable to be able to say. I don't know that there's a game on their home schedule that would lead to that kind of outpouring. But if they are able to get to the Michigan game unscathed and win and be 10-0 going into the Ohio State game, well, that could be crazy. But again, I don't see a rushing the field and tearing the goalpost down kind of thing, since Michigan's already lost 2 games.
Sure. Yeah, no, I would be surprised if they did that, if they beat Michigan. If they beat Ohio State on the road, they might break in.
Now that would be something to see.
Yeah. I mean, somebody might bust into Memorial Stadium, on
Memorial Stadium. Hell, just do it at, just do
take it out. Take it out of Columbus. That would be pretty.
Take it out of the shoe. Take it and just take it home and bring that back to Bloomington and bronze that thing.
There are places. How do you even get it out? Like, you could get out of the shoe because they got that ramp. Like, you could pull it out of the shoe. Can you get it out of Memorial Stadium? I don't know that you can. How do you do it?
Question.
It would
have to be broken down into pieces. No doubt.
Yes. Yeah.
You're not getting the whole thing out. Nope.
No, you're not getting the whole thing out, because you got to get it over stuff. I mean, like, you'd have to have like a very assembly line thing going. And I'm not sure there's portals that'll help you out of there anymore. Obviously, in the old days, you could do it before you closed in the end zones. That was easy. But these days, I don't know that you can if you wanted to.
Well, we've got people that are buying into IU football now. I just lost it. I had the comment to put up there, and it went away too quick. But it says that they are 100% bought into IU football now. 3-3 is the worst that they can do on the way out, and 9-3 would be great. They're not looking at 3-3 on the way out. I can promise you that. They're looking at 7-0. And then they'll be looking at 8-0. Then they're going to be looking at 9-0. I'm not. I think that with the home games against North Nebraska and Washington, those are going to be challenging games. Sure. Washington just beat Michigan, who just finally found a quarterback, ironically, in Jack Tuttle, the former IU quarterback. So that's going to be fun to watch. Nebraska is still going through some growing pains. And I think that that's going to be a close game because they have a good offense, but I think Indiana's offense is just become more and more solid each week. They didn't score their first 2 drives, Dustin, and then they score on 7 straight this past weekend.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get it, can't deny it. At this point, I mean, they're averaging 47. Per game. You're looking, like in a row, like their low ebb of this season is 31 points against Florida International. I mean, that's wild. But like your last, your 5 games since are 77, 42, 52, 42, 41. That's undeniable. I mean, Curtis Rourke I just looked it up. He's 5th in the NCAA, 5th in Division I in passing yards. He's 4th in completion percentage, and they've got running backs for days. So yeah, I mean, I can't sit here as much as the schedule is not that what they beat so far is not that impressive. The way that they've dominated suggests that it's translatable, that it's going to translate against the Nebraskas, the Washingtons, and Michigan States. I mean, again, to your point, I mean, they're going to be heavily favored in every single one of those games. I mean, Nebraska becomes, is losable. Washington's losable. Michigan State's losable. That they don't have they don't have to be terrible to lose those games. They don't have to throw it all away to lose those games, but they are going to be favored and they should win. The way their offense is functioning, they should win. They should beat all those teams, and they should be 9-0 going into Michigan. And they probably will be favored in that game. I thought you were nuts. I told you way before that there's no earthly possibility they're favored against Michigan, but if they played it today, they probably would be. So, something actually has to change between now and November 9th for them not to be favored against Michigan. They'd have to lose one of those games in between. If they're 9-0 going into Michigan, they're going to be favored. I don't think there's any doubt about it. So, we'll see what happens. But yeah, to your point, I mean, even first off, they're across the line. For any Indiana team, getting bowl eligible is the first step you got to make, and they're already there. So if everything falls apart and they absolutely fall off the tabletop, they're 6-6 and they're in a bowl game. And I don't think they're going to do that at all. But it's an established successful year for this team by any historical standard for Indiana football. They're already there. So everything from this point forward is got to be gravy if you're an IU fan, but they're going to stack these. I mean, they're, again, to your point, they're not going to go 3-3. I really don't think so. I don't think they're losing all 3 of these next 3. They might lose one of them. It wouldn't be a total shock, especially again, considering how this season is going. Everybody is getting to the mountaintop and losing, so, I would not ever say that Indiana football is immune to what is obviously afflicting the rest of college football. But they could be, I mean, they could be, they could run the table on those. Again, have I seen enough to think that they're going to beat Ohio State? I haven't. I don't know that I've seen enough to think that anybody's beating Ohio State. But again, if that's the only game they lose, they're a playoff team.
Absolutely. That's and the difference maker, ironically, is Ohio State. Indiana plays Ohio State, but Ohio State also there are 3 teams that I think that are going to challenge for the other slot of the Big Ten playoffs, unless Ohio State is just upset and ends up with 2 losses. I'm just assuming Ohio State's going to be one of those, but you've got Penn State, Indiana, and Oregon right now that I think have the best shot at being in that number, on the other side of that. All three of those teams play Ohio State, which that's going to be some irony there. So, if anyone beats Ohio State, obviously, boom, they get the leg up. And it starts with Oregon. They get the Buckeyes at home. If they can knock off Ohio State at home, that puts them in the lead for being that number one slot. And then the other games are going to be who gets the second slot. Now, more importantly, who ends up as the third best team in the Big Ten, because that team, I think, is also guaranteed a playoff spot.
Probably is. Yeah, it's probably they're probably going to get in. So yeah, I mean, it's all going to be part of that. Obviously, Penn State and Oregon will have the brand name, sort of bias going for them. Penn State. Basically, Penn State, Ohio State's their only. I was just not their only big game, but USC they've got Saturday unless USC steps up. They've got Penn State's got USC, Wisconsin, then Ohio State, Washington, Purdue, Minnesota, Maryland. If they go 11-1, their only losses to Ohio State, they'd probably get in the playoff. The tough part is going to be if you're Indiana. If Oregon only loses, if Oregon and Penn State each only lose to Ohio State, if Ohio State runs the table and Oregon and if Oregon, Penn State, and Indiana are all one-loss teams and each of them only loses to Ohio State, Penn State and Oregon get the benefit of the doubt by virtue of being Penn State and Oregon. Because obviously Penn State and Oregon don't
that would be
the
case.
So, that'll be the case. Obviously, Ohio State will get one of them in the Big Ten championship game in that case. And, they would hang another one on them, but I don't, there's still a good chance that team gets in. If the only team that Oregon or Penn State lose to is Ohio State and they lose to them twice, they probably still get in the playoff. And so Indiana probably gets hurt by the idea of being Indiana if that's how it shakes out. But you also never know. You don't know that that's going to be the case. I'm not even sure what the tiebreaker is in that scenario.
I would imagine once it gets down to there, because there's they don't play each other, those three teams, and the common opponent is going to be, it starts with Ohio State. I'm sure there'll be others, but it eventually it will come down to ranking by the CFP committee. But you never know. I mean, if Indiana they may work their way into that final spot. I mean, who knows? There's nothing to say the Big Ten cannot get four teams in.
Sure. The only thing that says they cannot get 4 teams in is the SEC is going to get a lot in.
Yes, there you go. That is the truth.
Yeah, and every obviously all 4 conferences are guaranteed at least their champion in. There's a group of 5 teams guaranteed 1 spot. So I mean, they do fill up pretty. You can fill these up pretty fast. You think of, wow, 12 teams getting in. That's so many options. But it can tighten up pretty quick. I mean, again, somehow you got to get an ACC team in, like you have to. I mean, even if everybody stumbles, even if Miami and Pitt, I think right now are the only undefeated teams in the ACC. Do I think Pitt is going to go through the year undefeated? I don't. But somebody's getting in. Miami might lose. Obviously, you got to get somebody in, the Big 12 out of Texas Tech or BYU or Iowa State. Iowa State and BYU are the only 2 undefeated teams in the Big 12 right now. One of those teams is getting in. Somebody like that, or Kansas State, or Colorado's 4-1. So somebody from there is getting in. So the spots get taken up. And so it is going to be tight. And again, they are going to, be hurt by the fact that they are Indiana. They'll be less hurt by the fact that they are Indiana. They'll be more hurt by the fact that, Penn State and Oregon are Penn State and Oregon.
Right.
It's not so much getting everybody to trust putting Indiana in. It's getting everybody to devalue an Oregon or a Penn State.
We shall see. Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star. Appreciate you as always. Make sure you're giving him a follow. Keep it up with all of his Pacers coverage, especially. Appreciate you, brother.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
You bet. We've got more coming up. We'll be back with it here from the Hard Truth Studios right after this.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville.
Indiana Sports Beat Radio is brought to you by the fine folks at the Hard Truth Distilling Company, including Big Woods Restaurants and Quaffon Beers. You can find their great products in your area. If not, ask for Hard Truth. Their great products like their Hard Road Rye, Sweet Mash Bourbon, or the Toasted Coconut Rum. Ask for the Hard Truth. Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off your first order.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouth-watering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at indyhomepros.com. In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Hoosier Hanks East.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Hard Truth Distilling Company and Andy Moore Honda Bloomington. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Monday. Thank you so much for joining us, as always. Grateful to have you here at the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. And the Hard Truth has been pretty good this day, as things are all good for Indiana football, moving up in the AP poll to the number 18 spot, a 3-way tie there. And but the reason they would have moved up even more, but there were, I think, 9 teams in front of the Hoosiers that also moved up. One of those was Texas A&M, who was behind Indiana, but jacked up 10 spots after their win this weekend. Number 9, Ole Miss, travels to LSU this weekend. Some of the big games, Ohio State at Oregon. Texas goes to number 1 Texas to number 18 Oklahoma. So a lot of big games coming up. That's going to shuffle some things. I'm shocked that LSU is ranked 13th. They just haven't shown it to me yet. I mean, they lose to a USC team that is, that fell again this weekend. They lost to Minnesota
they got rolled over by the boat, man. The boat we thought was going in circles came back as the Golden Gophers of PJ Fleck put some, they had a big win. Lots of big wins this weekend for programs. Washington, like I said, that was a huge win for them over Michigan. We got to see Jack Tuttle come on, and because Michigan they did not have a passing game at all. And though it didn't work out for them this past weekend, it more than likely will in the future. And the reason I say that is because it takes a while. So Tuttle's just coming off of an injury, I think, and kind of getting back into the groove. Look what happened with Jack Lausch and Northwestern this past weekend. He looked decent. Indiana couldn't really get to him much, as a matter of fact. Did they even have a sack in that game? I don't know. There were no turnovers in that game, though. I do know that from either side. No fumbles, no interceptions. And I don't recall if Indiana was able to get to him. This particular stat line that I'm looking at doesn't have that, but it's funny. We're 3 games in, and Indiana sitting atop of the Big Ten standings, partially because they are the only team in the Big Ten that has played 6 games so far, save for Washington and Michigan and Minnesota. Not Michigan State, but Michigan State 3-3. Minnesota, after that huge win over USC, they're now 3-3. You want to talk about parity in the Big Ten. But Indiana 6-0, Ohio State 5-0, Oregon 5-0, Penn State 5-0, Washington at 4-2, Nebraska 5-1 as they'll come in to play Indiana in 2 weeks. But in between, they're off as well. So it looks like, the Cornhuskers have a bye as well. Is that right? Oh my. I thought that they already had their bye, but it looks like no, because they've played 6. They're one of the teams that has played 6 games. So they're 5-1. They're only lost coming at home to Illinois. A solid win for them over the weekend, although not a very high scoring game as Nebraska beat Rutgers 14-7. Rutgers is a decent team. I think that was their first loss, I believe. Was that right? In conference play? Yeah, 4-1 now on the season, period. 1-1 in conference play. But Nebraska, 5-1. The only loss coming to a solid Illinois team. Also 1-1 in conference play. But these games are now of uber importance for both teams. Nebraska, they're going to need that win. Washington, they want that win. They're 4-2 overall, 2-1 in the conference. Michigan State, they're bordering on they're at the 500 level, so that's a game Indiana really can't afford to lose. It depends on what we're talking about too. If we're talking about the end of the rainbow, the stuff like the college football playoffs, Big Ten championships, you can't afford to lose any game other than maybe to Ohio State. But if Indiana were to lose a game other than Ohio State and they lost to Ohio State, they're not going to make the CFP or the Big Ten championship. Pretty confident in that. But there's lots of other crazy things like a 10-win season, the first time in the history of the program. And a 10-win season is going to get you into an incredible bowl game. Not just a bowl game, an incredible bowl game. So we've got to look forward to that. That's something to look forward to. For no matter what, think about that. If you're an Indiana football fan, it doesn't matter. I can't say it doesn't matter what happens the rest of the season because obviously it does. But Indiana is not going 0-6. They're not going 1-5. They're not going 2-4.
I don't think they're even going 3-3. Worst case scenario I see is 4-2 over these final 6 games, with a great potential of 5-1. It's real. I mean, the possibility is there. And it's not a possibility just because it's on the schedule. It's a possibility because what Indiana has proven they can do already, proven what they're doing, proving what they have become. And, you know, I've gone out on a limb this season with a lot of predictions because this was a completely different feel. And that's why I felt like the way I have. And here's some more for you. I think Indiana does manage to go at the worst 10-2, very possible 11-1. And if either of those happen, how Curt Cignetti is not only Big Ten Coach of the Year, resoundingly. If he doesn't win Big Ten Coach of the Year, taking a 3-9 team to, you know, 10-2 and all 1-8 in the Big Ten Conference to what they'll end up, then there is no justice. But I cannot see him not winning National Coach of the Year honors, because we talk all of these things that Indiana is not going to get because it's Indiana. Well, there's where it should work for you. If you're doing the things that Curt Cignetti has done, or this program is doing under him, how he would not win National Coach of the Year, that would be shocking. Who in the hell would have done a better job in all of college football than the guy who turned the losingest program ever into a winner in one season? Yeah, I don't see how that happens. But plenty coming up for Hoosier fans as well. Hoosier Hysteria, just less than 2 weeks away, a week from this Friday, the night before that Nebraska game. How crazy is the IU Athletics campus going to be? I mean, the line for Hoosier Hysteria is probably going to be crazy. The fans for the Nebraska game, which the time, seen a lot of people asking about the time. I think it ends up being a noon game. I do. I don't think it's going to be on anything special unless that has changed. I'm expecting it to be a noon game on BTN. I said earlier, had Nebraska not lost to Illinois, this would be a Fox Big Noon kickoff game, but they did, so it's not going to be. So we've got that going for us. But, man, we've got plenty coming up this week as well. Tomorrow, of course, Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News will join me, Chronic Hoosier. And we will have, let's see, who else do we normally have on Tuesdays? It's hard to remember everything. I got to be honest with you. But we'll get something else online for tomorrow as well. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to this week. It is so much fun covering a program that is in the hunt, that is a danger, that is getting talked about, and they deserve to get talked about in a positive way. And I'm talking about the Indiana football program. It's fun to cover that. It's fun to see the fans finally wrapping their arms around what is going on. I'm not going to tell you I told you so. But just enjoy. I'm going to say enjoy it. Enjoy it no matter what. Enjoy it. It's real. And even a loss in the future doesn't make it unreal. It's not going to change. They are for real, and they have one of the top quarterbacks in the conference. He's not going to be mentioned on a Heisman list because he's wearing a jersey that says Indiana on the front of it, or Hoosiers. But so for all of you that get excited wanting him, it's not going to happen. I just don't see that. But he deserves it. He's performing as well. And who else deserves it? Curt Cignetti. I'm so tired of hearing about Dion and Colorado and all that. But whatevs. It's been a blast of a day. Greg Rakestraw, big thanks from the ISC Sports Network. Of course, the voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fischer, joining us. Dustin Dopirak
from the Indy Star. Most importantly, each and every one of you. We can never do it without you. And look forward to doing this again tomorrow. And we'll be back to do that right here from the Hard Truth Distilling Company. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio. Indiana Sports Beat Radio is brought to you by the fine folks at the Hard Truth Distilling Company, including Big Woods Restaurants and Quaffon Beers. You can find their great products in your area. If not, ask for Hard Truth. Their great products like their Hard Road Rye, Sweet Mash Bourbon, or the Toasted Coconut Rum. Ask for the Hard Truth.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.